welcome. We have Tim Petrikis and Tim Keeney, the Board of Selectmen, Mike Marinaccio, our Chief Financial Officer, Brian Wissinger, our Assistant Finance Director, and Kim LaFleur, our Operations Director. Since the Chief and Glenn are not here, I'll give you a quick update on where we stand with the coronavirus. There are 120 positive cases in Summers, of which 23 are only Summers residents. The balance, here's the Chief now. The balance are being the prisoners, approximately 97. Have a seat, John.
6 feet away, John.
Right. Hospitalizations are down by 30% according to the governor as of this afternoon. It appears we're flattening the curve, and hopefully we'll start opening up businesses around March the 20th. Is that correct, John?
Yep. May.
So
May 20th.
May 20th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So go ahead, John. I'm sorry to.
No, so we're keeping busy. Fire department, medical calls primarily. Prisons, obviously, we do have quite a bit going on there. We still have the loaner ambulance that we borrowed from Enfield that's working out very well, and still doing calls with that. Other than that, all of our members are doing well with, we haven't had no illnesses, sicknesses amongst our staff, so we're doing very well there. PPE is actually starting to come in from most of the vendors, so we've got a decent stockpile right now of what we need for now and getting forward a little bit. I know Glenn has also been working with the state. He's got PPE in for supporting some like masks for some of the local businesses, so they can go online and I think it's the SIBA website, request masks for their business, and we've got them in stock, so we've been issuing them out to the local businesses as they require it. We have been starting to work with some of the local businesses as well, talking about things like outside dining and setting up tents and how they can make some arrangements to work around some of the social distancing requirements. So we're working actively on some of that. Glenn's also starting to work with on the economic recovery group. I know we've been meeting and talking about that quite a bit. I've been working with Brian and Glenn as well on grants and reimbursements. Some funding has come in from the federal government that already towards the ambulance. It's like an automatic. They gave it to anybody that runs an EMS agency that does Medicare, Medicaid patients. So they kind of give you the grant funds, and then they turn around and say you've got 30 days to agree to all the conditions and stipulations and follow all the paperwork, or they take the money back. So we're working through the conditions and stipulations right now to make sure that we can keep it, but that was about $9,000 there. So that'll help offset some of the costs that we have incurred on the EMS side of the house.
Is there no ambulance in?
It is not in yet. It got delayed again, so now they're talking the 18th.
Okay.
So, but knock on wood, Enfield has been very generous with us and is working with us to allow us to continue.
How's their situation?
They are doing much better. They are back up and running with their own staff and their own trucks. Yep.
Tim, can we hear you?
You said 18th. Is that of May or June?
As of yesterday, it was May. I'll believe it when it when it shows up. I wouldn't be surprised if it was June. But
Okay.
it's one of those. Every time we call them, there's another issue. There's another delay. They're having problems getting this, that, the other thing, and it's always been a moving deadline. This is the truck that was promised to us in January. So,
Gotcha.
But with a loaner from Enfield in the current situation, we're okay from an equipment standpoint.
correct. Equipment standpoint, we're doing very well. Luckily, we had acquired all of the equipment to fully equip the new ambulance, so we're not even having to use Enfield's equipment. We just put basically our new equipment on the truck,
Right.
and are able to use it and run it, and so it hasn't been. So it's not like we're using Enfield's supplies,
Right.
things like that.
Good.
So it's actually working out very well.
How about the calls on a daily basis?
Daily basis, it goes in spits and spurts. It seems to be most departments in the area are down. We are actually up. Our call volume's up about 20-25% from this time last year. Again, the big driver is the prisons.
Right.
We've done, I want to say, we're coming up on almost 80 transports now out of the prisons. And again,
80 total?
yep. And again, A lot of them are COVID, but there have been. I mean, they still have their normal day-to-day chest pain, seizures, difficulty breathing, not related to COVID, things like that. So those haven't gone away. So it's keeping us busy in general there. And then we're just starting to see the regular calls in the rest of the community had dropped off for a while. People were kind of scared to go to the hospital, but to the point where the call volume is starting to come back up, which is actually probably a little bit of a good thing. Not only in Summers, but county-wide. They've noticed that there's almost like a 35% increase in CPR calls. And what's happening is people are sick, they're not feeling well, they don't want to go to the hospital. They're ignoring it, they're trying to put it off, and they're waiting until it's too long and dropping. So actually, Talon County is actually trying to do a large push to get the word out to people that if you're not feeling well, please call. We will come. We have got the protections in place for us and you and the patient and everybody else. The hospitals are up and running, and we'd much rather get you treated sooner rather than later, because sometimes if you wait too long on some of these things, it can go bad fast. So we are trying to get. So we are actually TN and all the chiefs are starting to work on trying to get that word out to everybody. I know we put it on our Facebook page and some of our social media, but that's something that keeps coming up as well. And then the other thing that we just are getting a lot of, just because a lot of people are home, are brush fires, small fires, things like that, nuisance fires. Not just us, but in the county, we're starting to see a lot of those. It's dry, it's springtime, it's windy, but people are home and they're trying to do yard work, and so we're getting a lot of nuisance fires.
As restaurants transition to outdoor dining, we have any problems in terms of compliance with?
I think we're working with the vendors and the local establishments. Obviously, there are codes and requirements on the tent has to be flame rated and flame retardant, has to be positioned in certain places that doesn't block regular egress to the building. We've got to making sure that they're putting up vehicle protection so that if they put it up in the parking lot, somebody doesn't drive a car into it. So a lot of things that are going into these considerations, and then
Get those bubble rooms that they have in Worcester.
correct. But then the flip side though is they start saying, well, do they put sides on the tent? But if they do that, does that become a building again, and therefore they can't?
Exactly.
It's not outdoor dining if you've got 4 walls and a roof.
Correct.
So we're trying to balance out those needs with the businesses and trying to figure out the fire code issues and trying to accommodate the best we can.
Okay.
John?
Any additional comments or questions for John? Okay, John, thanks. Next item is the consideration of the current advantages of bonding and restructuring debt due to the current borrowing rates. And I've asked Mike Marinaccio to comment on this. Mike? Can you hear me, Mike?
I didn't hear you.
Yes, I asked you to comment on the agenda item, consideration of current advantages of bonding and or restructuring debt due to the current borrowing rates.
Yeah. Well, I'd say a few weeks ago, when actually about a month or two ago, when this all started to happen, I had a consultation or discussion with our financial advisor. I've kind of pulled together all those notes. I'll kind of briefly go over this with you, and if you have any questions after the fact, if it seems too detailed for you, because I think I need to frame it, I have a notes document that I can share with you by email after the fact if you want it. So to look at it in two pieces, what in terms of bonding, right now we have a $6 million bond anticipation note, which expires in October this year, and its current interest rate is 1.39 net interest. We will have to refinance that and go into our general obligation bond, which we've been authorized to do with the appropriation that we had in the referendum. We're anticipating a $9.5 million general obligation bond. We want to minus any state offsets, which we're only estimating at this point now at approximately $500,000. We want to take as much as we can of that anticipated authorization. So we're looking at a $9.5 million bond to be issued in October of this year, 20. The term that bond has not been finalized yet. It will be about a 20 to 23-year term, and the rate is estimated. It's estimated now to be under 2%. And when we started analyzing all this, we thought the rate was going to be in the 4% range. So the October bond issuance looks to take advantage of the current low interest rates. So that answers the first part of the question. The second part of the question is about refunding. And that gets a little more complicated. Right now, we have 3 long-term bond issuances that we have. A 2005, which is a refunding at 3.7%. We have a 2012, which is also a refunding, and it's in the 2 to 3% range. It fluctuates. And then we have our 2014, which is just a regular general obligation bond, and that's in the 2 to 4% range also. The potential for refunding is dire in that since 2018, a current refunding is not allowed on a tax exempt basis until after the call date. So there's a call protection period for investors in those bonds. So the 2005 is not refundable at all. In fact, that debt expires off our books this year. The 2012 is refundable, but the call date is August 1st, 2022. And then our 2014 is also refundable, but the call date is November 1st, 2022. So essentially, you can't refund a tax-exempt bond that we're holding until 2022, over 2 years from now. But if you decide to go ahead and do it on a taxable basis, not a tax-exempt basis, so there's a difference, and I'm not sure how you calculate that. The financial advisor would calculate it, but the calculation is you could call the refund on those bonds, but it has to be on a taxable basis, and there are no savings when you do that. The 2012 would go negative 150,000, and the 2014 would go negative 105,000. So you're actually losing $255,000, a lot of which is bond issuance costs, legal fees, financial advisor fees are in that analysis. So there really is no advantage for us trying to do a refunding at this point. Is the bottom line. So
it was worth a review. Thank you.
Yes, it was worth a review, and thanks for picking up on that. I have to say that we should have probably shared that with you, that we had already asked, but I didn't think to do that. So,
Mike, I have a question. With interest rates as low as they are, is it something we should consider in terms of additional bonding?
I'm not so sure we should think of that yet. If you look at our total outstanding debt right now, it's $10 million. And we're going to be losing we'll probably come just under 10 million when the 2005 goes off the books. We're going to go for another 9.5 million in October. So you're essentially doubling your outstanding debt. So I think at that point in time, we would take a look at it and decide where we want to go with it. Some towns obviously bond every year. We've bonded every third or fourth year. Maybe we can accelerate that and bond skip a year and then bond in a second year. So, but I don't know if I'd hop on it right away. Just to do that, just because the rate is low.
Okay. I see that Glenn has joined us. Glenn, do you have any additional comments other than what's already been made by the chief?
No, not really. I kind of missed the beginning of what he said. My apologies. I had trouble signing in on my phone, but no, I just had the review of the numbers that we had. The 107 cases, the 23 actually being outside the prison. That was really about it. Just a couple things to do with the schools and stuff. But
yeah, the schools have officially announced they will be closed through the end of this current year. So
yes, correct. And then we're working with the local police, DPW, and the schools to do some type of something for the seniors. Or there's something in the works. So
yeah, I was going to make an announcement. There's a senior. What do you want to call it? The senior.
Well, it's a parade, I guess.
Senior
and a tribute,
parade.
so.
We're working with the police department and DPW in terms of having the seniors, I guess, have a parade with their cars. But
Yeah.
we'll come back to the board at the next board meeting, let you know what the route is and whether or not we get
Yeah.
approval for local
Yep.
traffic authority.
Yeah. That'll come from Trooper Heavey.
I think it's a good idea because it appears that the graduation ceremony may not take place.
Correct.
So here's an opportunity for the seniors to participate. So.
yeah, that is up in the air. We also there was something to do on the news where small businesses applied for surgical masks from the state, and
Yeah.
we did go pick up approximately 950 masks on Tuesday, and we distributed to them as everyone knows we have them, and they're coming to pick them up, or we're delivering them to them. So that's a nice little perk they got. So.
Yeah.
Good. All right, thank you, Glenn. The next item on the agenda is the consideration of a COVID-19 ad hoc committee. Now, Glenn, you forwarded on to us the Connecticut Planning for Long-Term Disaster Recovery.
I
which
have
is
not looked at that yet.
which is the size of a telephone pole.
Correct. Yes.
So I guess my comments are that I think this should be under your purview as the emergency management director, and I'm not really sure.
Okay.
I'm not really sure what the timing is on this in terms of what we have to do to respond. I think overall we've done a pretty good job in terms of our response to this crisis. But what's your opinion?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We've done a really good job. Just keeping up on it. The chief has done exceptional with, getting a hold of personal protective equipment for not only for the first responders but for individuals in the town employees. Getting chemical, cleaning supplies, wipes, those types of things. This is more looking towards buy-in from the townspeople. So more so looking for someone like in a Rotary or a Lions Club member to take the lead on this. I will definitely stand behind it, but they kind of want first responders out of this.
Right, I did read
equation.
that.
But they do want buy-in, someone like another town agency or organization to be part of it as well.
Yeah.
It seems to me that you got to be concerned about objectivity and the perception of patting yourself on the back for doing a great job. It's great to have someone else say you're doing a great job and explain why.
Right.
That's
Yep.
objective.
Yep, absolutely.
That was my thinking as well, and
Yep.
just thought it, and also could take into consideration some of the requirements that the governor has mentioned, of course, including your personnel as part of the group.
Right.
Looking at things like meeting urgent needs, accelerating recovery, expediting coordination, and some kind of after-action report. But the problem is, we're not at the after point yet. But
Correct. Yep.
But I just thought it's something that, as selectmen, I think that we could anticipate trying to put something together and just to kind of start to get organized and
Absolutely.
maybe think about some people that might be beneficial to the town and the value of some kind of report like that, as well as being able to be responsive to what the governor's talking about.
Correct. No, absolutely.
So-
It also shows a lot of transparency too if we do it that way. So.
So obviously, people like social services should be involved in this, as well as additional the fire department and the EMT. But who else would you suggest as citizen participation, Tim?
My thinking is someone like Paul Salva would be excellent, and he actually called me and said he would be interested. Just from the standpoint of he's former president of Rotary on 2 different occasions. He's done a lot of different things in town with the school system. He's obviously a very well recognized medical professional in pulmonary medicine, and I think he could pull. If we came up with some other names as well, of course. Other people I was thinking of, and I haven't talked to anybody else, but people like Bill Shapiro, for instance. I'm not even sure what party he belongs to, but I know him through the Ethics Commission, and he's a young attorney, very interested in what's going on in the town. And I think someone like that could be helpful.
Yeah, I know,
I was
Bill.
also thinking of,
Yeah, I think that's a good suggestion. I guess my concern is, or my question is, you want a perspective in terms of this long-term recovery from the citizens in the community? That's what you're suggesting?
say the long-term recovery.
Yeah, I guess what I'm asking is the objective here in terms of this ad hoc committee, would it be to get input from the citizens as it relates to how we responded to this COVID-19 crisis? Is that what you're asking?
I think that could be helpful, but as you're implying, obviously the professionals in town are the ones with the information.
Correct.
So the thinking is if they could maybe report to this group as sort of an ad hoc group, the group could report out what their findings have been and make recommendations based on what the professionals have told them and what their view is of the value of what the kind of response we've had. And also some ideas about how to continue to be prepared for the future.
Right.
So Glenn and I have read through your phone book. Part of what the governor is looking to get at, and to expand on that, is including somebody that would represent local business, somebody that represents the church group, somebody that would represent some of the other community groups to say, are we missing anything? Is there anything coming down the pike that we could be doing, should be doing, that could help out local businesses recover faster?
Can't hear him.
Oh, sorry.
You can't?
Okay.
Any better now?
Can you hear us, Tim?
I didn't touch anything.
Glenn, you can still hear me, or yes?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay. So to expand on that, what I think the governors, what they were trying to get out of this committee and this report was some people outside of the town government to just say, is there somebody that we're missing? Are we missing parents? Are we missing seniors? Are we missing business owners? Is there anything that we can do to help the community that, again, we're kind of upfront and in it day in, day out, and sometimes we miss the obvious that may be happening off to the side. I think that's where the governor's report is, and that's what the idea behind the committee was.
Okay, well, that fits in with my thinking as
Yep.
well. Yeah.
So,
I guess the difficulty here is trying to describe what's the focus of this,
right.
and what's the makeup of the ad hoc commission, whatever you want to call it. But I think the timing is important here too. Now is a good time to think about creating something like that and getting started.
Getting ahead of it now, yeah.
Yeah.
Tim, you want to take this on in terms of defining
Well,
this, or how do you want to handle it?
Want them to come back with what would this committee be chartered to do?
Yeah.
Well, it would be chartered to evaluate how the town's response related to the needs of the town.
Yeah.
And recommendations for, and some kind of report as to how the response, what the response was composed of.
Its
some kind of
effectiveness, its
comments
needs.
in that
Okay.
regard, maybe by looking at other towns as well. coming up with recommendations for future activities, lessons learned. I mean, these are the kinds of things that they could be input from the organizations that would report to this group. And I don't know how many meetings they could have. I don't know, 6, 7 meetings, come back with a report. But could look at things like, as John said, the senior center, the parents,
Social services, businesses.
I guess how we're handling everything
other
right
citizens.
now.
Yeah.
Social, the Zoom thing. I mean, you're talking about so many things.
Correct, and it's for identifying any immediate issues. Hey, are we missing a
Right.
glaring obvious thing that we can fix right now,
Right.
as well as down the road if we have these types of events or incidents, how can we be better prepared?
Correct.
Right.
Don't throw away all your expired.
And always communication seems to be, I mean, I think we've done a great job as communication. Our weekly meetings, the websites, web postings, the radio station. But again, we might be missing something that someone else might pick up on and have a better suggestion for something.
Right.
Well, this also could create a valuable record for the performance, what we did,
Yeah.
Yep.
what was accomplished,
Yep.
how it relates to neighboring towns.
Be a role model. I like
And
that.
it could be a real value to
Absolutely.
planning for the future as well.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I agree.
Something happens down the road to be able to look back and see, okay, this is what was done, this was how it was done, these are the results, these were their recommendations for improvements,
Just got to get the right people.
recognition for what actually occurred.
Glenn, could you come up with some objectives based upon this
Yep, I think
discussion?
that all makes sense. I guess, my issue is that often these things get done, they get put in a binder and they get forgotten about. So if we're going to ask people to step forward and do the work, I just want to make sure we've got a plan to use it afterwards. And
We'd keep it at the emergency
I'm
management.
fine with it. I just don't want them to do work for no future value.
I think you can be
Report's
sure
fine,
that
but
this
we're
is
not
not.
going to use it for something that's fine.
I think you can be sure this is not going to just get put in a binder and forgotten about. I mean, it's a timely issue. It's one that could reoccur in the
Don't you think
future.
that's something that would be
And
held
it's
at
probably
the emergency management?
One of the most significant emergency response
Yeah.
issues
Pandemic,
the town has
all.
faced in the last
Right?
decades.
Oh, I don't doubt that. I just want to make sure it gets used when it's done.
We could
Well,
put it
I
on.
think that relates. I think that's a good point. That relates to the format as to how it gets reported out, how it's organized, what sources of input there are, and of course recommendations for improvement, acknowledgement of what worked well.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we don't face anything like this for another 100 years. But
Next
how
winter.
does somebody find this thing 30 years from now and say what happened back in 2020?
Well, how about next year?
Mm-hmm.
If you're concerned about this thing getting dust put on it, I think it's not out of the picture that this thing couldn't reoccur somewhere down the road.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I get that. And most of us on the call will kind of remember what happened last year. My thing is, if we're going to ask people to put a good report together, let's just make sure we use it. Put it someplace where future people can find it. I see this stuff happen all the time where people do reports and they get shoved down their credenza and nobody ever sees the light of day. So I'm not opposed to it. I just want to make sure we as a board have an action plan.
Yeah.
To
And well,
make sure it's accessible and used if needed.
And
Whether
that-
that's next
Well,
year or
isn't
10
the
years.
town clerk someone who's supposed to be keeping records as well?
that's what I was going to say. The town clerk's office and also the emergency management office. We could keep that over there as well as all our other emergency management stuff. So, I mean, it's secure too. So.
So I think we need to come up with an objective in terms of those items we want to address. And I'm just wondering, Glenn, if you'd like to take that on, just kind of give us an overview. And then we can pass it on to the Board of Selectmen, and we can determine who should serve on this committee. But,
Yes,
you know,
absolutely. I'll review that document, the PowerPoint presentation.
right,
I'll come up with some objectives and
I'd like to
go from
read
there. I'll
through
get
it
them to
too,
you guys.
like
right.
some of it.
And then we can. God, I'm sorry, Tim. Go ahead. Okay.
Go ahead. Yep.
Alrighty. The next item on the agenda is discuss a proposal from Kevin Riley.
Oh, I gotta text him. Go to the next.
Off to number 3.
Hold on. I need this.
All right, we're gonna
I'm
get
not
off.
sure if Kevin's on, but
He might be. I think that's
I'm here.
Oh, you
Why
are.
don't
Okay.
I just describe
He's there.
what I heard
Okay.
from Kevin and why I thought this was worthy of discussion.
He's on the call.
Kevin's on the call.
Kevin's on the call.
Tim.
Kevin is on the phone.
Go ahead,
Kevin
Kevin.
approached me, several days ago with the idea of setting aside 7 acres of his property, privately owned property, which abuts the school property on 9th District Road, and putting it aside for use as a community garden where individuals and families could each come in and set aside a plot that they would have responsibility for, control over, and also that about, I think it was 1/4 of the of the produce or whatever was produced from this plot would be set aside for public use. Meaning, if you're harvesting corn or you're harvesting beans or potatoes or whatever it is, about 1/4 of the crop would be set aside and basically given to Loaves and Fishes or some entity like that would make it accessible to the public that need the food the most. And as far as issues of liability, and that the water source would be hauled from the nearby brook, or it would be brought in by the individual utilizing the plot. And liability issues could be covered by some kind of waiver, possibly, that would be signed by a family that wanted to use the plot. And it would also identify, there would be some kind of an agreement put together, where a membership agreement, which would identify what activities were permissible, and that the family or the individual would set aside 1/4 for a local food pantry, and why don't you take it from there, Kevin?
Kevin, are you on the line?
Yeah, so I have the property over here, and I have no. I am on the line. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I'm on the line. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I have no. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hello.
We can hear you, Kevin.
Okay, so I have no plans. Okay. So I have no plans for the backfield this year due to what's going on. So I thought it might be a good idea that people could come and bring their kids and grow a little garden and let them understand how to grow a garden and pick the crops and then be able to give 25% of that of their yield back to people who are more in need. There's about seven acres or so back there. The brook runs close by. I've been trying to get a hold of Connecticut Water Company, but I've been unsuccessful to this point in getting through them. Their phone is busy to see if they would take an average of my last 6 months or so and then donate the water to be able to do that. But at this point here, It would be more of a kind of a Sturbridge Village kind of garden that you'd have to go down and get a couple of 5-gallon pails and carry them up, or haul your own water, or whatever. But I'm working on the water thing at this point. But we would put a cart out in front, and anybody from town who would need any use could stop and get it, and there'd be a donation box there if they chose to do so, to put a donation into Loaves and Fishes, and whatever we didn't move, we could get over to them, because Priscilla at Loaves and Fishes is, her normally was doing 75 or 80 a day, and now she's up to 2 or 2.25 a day. So the need is great, and so I thought it might be a good idea to use the property.
Kevin, I laud your recommendation, but what role do you see the town playing in this?
I don't see the town playing any role, except for the fact that Tim said that maybe the town attorney could help me with a couple of paperwork that would disclosures or anything that would protect me from anyone getting hurt or anything. I don't think the town has to be involved in it whatsoever.
But I mean, this is the kind of thing that I think the selectmen could maybe embrace as like something favorable to the town, and communicate the concept. And
right, but we can't just.
It doesn't mean you own it. It just means you appreciate what's being proposed and identify it as something that townspeople could get involved in.
Yeah,
well, everybody's sitting home now, and it'd be something to do, and come out and and have this social experiment, and do some good for others, and do some good for themselves. I know it's hard getting produce at this point, and it's going to get harder before it gets easy, I think. And I think all around it could be of great use.
Yeah,
or maybe not.
I'm still struggling with how the town gets involved in it. I have no problem personally communicating this, but I don't think the town attorney should be involved in terms of giving advice. This is really something that's your recommendation, Kevin.
I could get attorney to.
Okay.
I could get my own attorney to prepare something just
because
myself.
I think they're.
I mean, if you don't feel comfortable with that,
well, I would also, Kevin. I would also recommend. I mean, you must have liability insurance to cover that kind of thing. Anyways, that's what I would probably look into first, and then have your attorney look at that stuff, or because you're going to have people on your land, so that's what I would do first, anyways.
Right.
So.
And accidents do happen.
Yes, they do. So.
Or whatever.
Yeah. Exactly.
Another thing you could consider is setting up a nonprofit to take ownership of the property on a temporary basis for as long as it's being used for that purpose.
But
and I think that could assist in
that's a good idea,
liability issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, I love what you're doing, but I don't see how the town can play a role here.
We can help advertise for you and send, and people can contact you. We have an issue of our Summers Connects going out soon.
Yeah.
So if you'd like, we could do that. If you want to get all your ducks in a row with your insurance company and your lawyer, I'd be happy to put something in Summers Connects. And, I think that would, we'll start there and, help you out there. I don't know. And I want a little piece. I want to put some cucumbers.
Yeah, and that's...
Okay.
Well, I told Tim that we were going to go 25 by 25 plots, but it seems to me that the people that I'm talking to that are farmers say that for a household, that's a little big. So we're going to drop it down by 10 by 10.
That's
but
good.
we would allow if a family wanted to have could have up to 2 plots, which would give them 20 by 20. Because 25 by 25, they're saying maybe too tough for, most of these people are probably novice people. I don't know how many people have gardens, and so we're going to make them a little smaller, but the max would be 2, and we'll go from there and see how it works out. We got a guy that can do some tilling here, or if they want to use mounds, have some topsoil on the property. If they want to mound up and do mounds, the only request that I would have is that the property's return to its original thing. I mean, somebody may want to put up fences to keep rabbits out or something like that, and if they did that, that'd be fine. So, but they'd have to be removed at the end of the year. That's all.
What's the soil like on the property, Kevin?
Well, it was a dairy farm. I think one of the Averys that's been here for a dairy farm for a couple hundred years. The barn is at least 225 years old. It's all hand hewn and post and beam. So this property's been some time. It's very green. I think I have about 4 or 5 inches of topsoil underneath. It's sandy, but it's surrounded by originally a quarter mile track here. So it's surrounded by, if you come from the backside by the cemetery, I abut the cemetery for a couple hundred yards on the side towards Main Street. Of course, right up along the Mabel Behavior property for quite a distance, and so it's protected by a dike that surrounds it, but it gets a lot of sun, and the people that were here before me, Fitzpatrick's, had great gardens here, and grass grows great.
All right, Kevin, why don't you, we'll help you out with some of the PR with the Summers Connect magazine. And if you check with Connecticut Water and also with your attorney in terms of liability, and then we'll help you publicize it, okay?
Yeah, I'll be in touch with you, Kevin.
Okay.
I can call you next week and see.
Like the idea? You like the idea, Bud?
Personally, I have no problem with it. I'm just trying to figure out what the role of Summers government has to play in this, other than helping you to publicize it. I think there could be a need there, but again, I don't know.
Well, I don't think I don't think I need to go before Summers government. It was Tim came up with the idea. It helps me to pass it by you guys, but I mean, I wanted to. I'm a farm. I'm registered as a farm, and if I wanted to, rent this out for somebody to plant a field or whatever, I have the right and the ability to do that. Or if I wanted to split it up for different people, I did. But I thought Tim came up with a good idea that just run by you guys first.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
We appreciate it. So we'll help you, like I said, we'll help you publicize it, get the word out. How's that?
Great.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, stop by sometime. Take a look.
All right,
Sounds
Kevin.
good.
All right.
Thanks
Bye,
very
Kevin.
Good night.
much. Opportunity to add additional
Bye-bye.
items. I do have one comment. Tammy Thompson, she was our animal control officer part-time, has left, and we've interviewed a candidate, both Mike Heavey and Kim Lillett, and we'd like to recommend a lady by the name of Kaylee Curtis to the position of part-time on-call animal control officer for the town of Summers at $18 per hour. She has been vetted, and that's their recommendation.
What's her name, Bud?
Her name is Kaylee, K-A-L-E-Y, Curtis, C-U-R-T-I-S.
She a town resident?
I don't know that.
No,
So all the preliminary background checks have been
they
completed.
don't have to be a town resident.
And there have been no issues. So we're taking the recommendation of Trooper Heavey and Kim Liddick. So I need a recommendation
Want me to vote
and a vote.
on the recommendation?
Did the position get posted in case there is a town resident who's qualified?
Of course. It's been posted for 3 weeks. We got 7 applicants. We interviewed, I think, 3.
What's happening with sound?
Better?
If you're not in front of the camera, the camera's not picking you up on the Zoom call, Tim.
The cameras?
Not picking me up?
It's not picking Tim up if Tim's not in front of the camera.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Is that what? Oh, I have to be in front of the camera? I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Now, when in front of the camera, we can hear you.
Oh, I'm terribly sorry. I did not know that. So, yes, we did publish the opening. It was been on there for 3 weeks. We got 7 applicants. They interviewed 2 that had the most experience, and both of them agreed today to accept the position with, pending Board of Selectmen approval. They already did the background checks. And those are the 2 they like. One would be per diem as a backup, and the other one.
Who's the other one?
No, I'm not aware of the other one.
Oh, it should be right here.
No,
Oh, I'm so
just
sorry.
one.
No, there's.
Are there 2?
Well, there's a per diem person, so she wouldn't be active until she would actually come on. She works in Enfield part time because we ran into this problem with Tammy leaving, not having anybody on the weekends. But the troop usually picks up those calls that they get and go to those calls for the animal control officer. So
So you're talking about hiring one part-time person.
yeah, and having a per diem person.
Okay, a fill-in.
Yes.
Okay.
Just because we don't want to run into this again. So, and it's such a they all work in different towns. Like I think Kaylee works in Enfield. Ellington, and the other one works in Stafford. So they all know each other too, which is good. And we got a recommendation actually from Tammy, the prior animal control officer, recommending these 2 folks. So.
Who's the second person?
I have to get that name for you. I'm terribly sorry. I thought it was on the email. Stand by. So, Barbara Litwin as the backup. So she works in Stafford, okay, part-time under Tammy Thompson because she left here for full-time employment. And Kylie works in Ellington, I believe. And so she'd be here part-time, weekends on call. So that's the recommendation that Kim Liddick and Trooper Heavey are putting toward the Board of Selectmen. So. I hope
What's
that...
the job description?
Excuse me?
What's the job description?
Do you want me to go through the job description right now?
I'm just curious. What are the responsibilities of this person?
Animal control. They work under the police department, Kim Liddick and Trooper Heavey. I mean, I
So
can
they
send it to
respond
you
to
in an
people?
email, but
Respond to people's homes and
yeah, and just like a loose cow. I don't know.
you got a next door neighbor.
A loose
who's got a dog
Oreo
that's
cow.
exterminated. Just give us a call.
Well, yeah, and like skunks and stuff like that, like rabid animals that need to be shot, and like there's a whole mess of stuff that they do. It's weird.
Takes care of the roadkill.
Yeah.
They do.
So, well,
Would they also do that? Seriously, is that part of the job?
excuse me, no. That is not part of their job. That is not part of their job. So if you
That's a
see,
live animal that they control. Okay.
so if you see a deer,
Public Works actually takes care of
Yes.
roadkill.
yes, they do.
Public Works.
DPW?
Yeah,
Public Works
DPW.
takes care of it. Like one that sits on a state road, then I have to call the
And they tell people to call the state, and everybody gets angry.
Yeah.
So if you see a turtle in the roadway,
I've
Tim,
got one
call
question
animal
for you,
control.
Kim.
Okay. Okay.
Recommended.
I
Tim?
got one question for you, Kim.
Okay.
John Roach mentioned to us that his part-time people can't work here anymore because of issues they have with insurance where they have their full-time job and vice versa. So there's an issue right now with public insurance that I've reached out to CCRM on. If either of these folks are insured where they have a full-time job, just make sure they can take a part-time job without jeopardizing that insurance. Because the Connecticut Council of Municipalities is saying if they can't determine whether the person got sick, they may not be covered.
Right.
So I'd hate to bring somebody on part-time and then have them bill in this point and not be covered. Just have them check first.
Right.
It's okay for them to take on a part-time job here and not lose coverage.
Right. And so right now we're pretty status quo at the fire department, but as far as like an animal control officer, this person's part-time anyway, so he doesn't have a full-time job. So they're both part-time.
No, I understand
Okay.
if they're full-time somewhere else.
No, I understand that.
Here could jeopardize their insurance there. Yep.
Yeah.
You may want to just check with them before they.
Yeah.
put themselves
Okay.
in jeopardy.
I can do that. I see what you're saying. I got it. Thanks. So.
We have a recommendation? The vote?
You can.
Do we have a limitation on how many hours we're anticipating?
So they're on call. I think it's under Brian. What is their hours they get paid exactly?
Brian?
Brian.
10-person leave is, I think it's 8 hours a week.
Yeah, it's not much. It's just covering Friday starting at 3 till Sunday.
The other one is Monday. Yeah, it's either 8 or 10. I don't remember.
Yeah, it's minimal. It's nothing. So.
It's very minimal.
Yeah, and it's on call, so they're not actually at a desk. They're at home or wherever, but close by, so that they can go on a call. Anything else?
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we bring on Kaylee Curtis as a part-time on-call animal control officer with Barbara Litwin as her backup at $18 an hour part-time.
Okay.
And with an expectation that they would work approximately 8 to 10 hours a week.
Okay.
Would that be year-round?
I'll second that.
Yes.
Yes.
Is that
Yes.
year-round?
Yes.
Okay.
The second
Very
on
good.
that?
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Any additional discussion? Okay. We'll hire them. Last item is payment authorization. Both you gentlemen received this.
Yep.
I reviewed my questions have all been answered by Brian. He did a great job responding to my questions.
Okay.
I'm satisfied.
Tim Petrikis, you're okay with it?
Good, thanks, yes.
Okay.
So go ahead and make improvements in the amount of $551,359 to be sent as presented by the finance office.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right. Motion to adjourn?
When's our next meeting?
So next week it'll
Next
be
Wednesday?
on Wednesday. Yes,
At
Wednesday at 2.
2. Okay.
Does that work for everybody, Tim?
Yep.
Yeah,
Tim?
that's the update on the coronavirus.
Tim Petrikis, that works
It
for you?
works for now. Let's see what Wednesday brings.
Okay.
As far as I know, let's see what Wednesday brings.
Okay. All right.
All righty?
All right. Well, it's nice to see everybody.
Thank you, gentlemen.
See you.
Bye.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye. We're off.
Stand by.